welcome to the Pandemics of America presentation, Creating Our Own Change. I'm Tiara. I'm the new intern coordinator for this summer. And our nonprofit is Grace for Race. Our founder is Akil Collins. He's on the call. Akil Collins developed a passion for being an activist and influencer at the mere age of 16. At a young age, Akil recognized the disparities in many facets of society, and in some cases, the absurdities in politics, education, and the media. As a result, Grace for Race was started in the summer of 2019 to bring awareness and action to empower undereducated and underrepresented minority groups for the benefit and advancement of all humankind. Apart from overseeing Grace for Race, Akil Collins is currently writing his first book about his experiences living in China, increasing his fluency in Mandarin and training for distance running. With being fluent in Mandarin and understanding cultures aside from his own, he hopes to bring an international worldview to the foundation. Grace for Race, our nonprofit, operates upon 5 pillars. The first being the God First approach. In Grace for Race, we maintain a God-centered approach and we recognize that as the key to societal betterment. R in Grace stands for Reading and Comprehension Empowerment. Minority youth are limited by a lack of strengths and skills that are needed to be successful on the SAT and ACTs. For our A stands for Awareness of Economic and Social Challenges. Minorities in America must be informed of their disadvantages so that we elevate our economic state. The C in Grace stands for Cultural Diversity and Inclusion. Grace for Race stands for America's minority cultures that are marginalized. And lastly, the E in Grace stands for Ending Racism and Discrimination. By striving to improve our witnesses as minorities, we can start by spreading awareness to move towards a society that is not as divided. So we have a mission statement and a goal. Our mission statement being Grace for Race is a nonprofit organization that focuses on equipping today's youth with a heightened state of economic and racial awareness, giving them the opportunity to evaluate and change the inequality issues they face in society. Through a Christian perspective, we will take action through speaking engagements, events, and by serving our community by lending a helping hand to those in need. Through education and community service, Grace for Race aims to tackle America's cultural and societal inequalities in politics, education, economics, sociology, media, and the legal system. So some of our accomplishments and upcoming events we donated over 4,000 masks during the beginning of the pandemic, starting in March through May. We started a foster care book donation and reading program where our members and other volunteers go out to local foster homes and read to the children, donate books to them that helps with reading comprehension and awareness, one of our pillars. We have diversity and cultural awareness training, which we will also have later this summer that you can participate in. We have upcoming podcasts to discuss Grace for Race education topics and our upcoming annual 5K event to end racism and fight against xenophobia, which will be coming up in a couple months. We have an exec board for our Grace for Race chairs. Our chief of staff is Carrington Johnson. She cannot be here with us this evening. We have Jewel Walker. She's in charge of the God First approach. Riley Anthony, who's in charge of reading and comprehension empowerment. Zaya Collins, who was in charge of awareness of economic challenges, as well as Masai Collins. Then we have Monte Anthony. He's in charge of awareness of social challenges. Karis Grice, she cannot be here this evening, but she is the marketing chair. And then Ryan Grice, she is the vice chair. Now I hand it off to Akil.
Hello, everyone. I'm Akil, of course. And today, our mission for today is to just kind of say that we believe that ignorance of racial economics has held us back for decades as minorities. We also believe that race and economics are tied. And so to fix our problems, we got to understand that and work towards fixing that. We also believe that education and diversity training they're not enough. There's not enough people doing what we try to do. So hopefully that can change. We need intentional programs and events focused on helping people be anti-racist and helping them take action against racism every day in their work and in everyday lives. As far as how we can take action, we must start by being woke to what's going on around us, understanding what's going on around us. We must have empathy in other people's problems and understanding those. We must want to change, have the desire to change. And then once we have that, we can find places to kind of do that and take action. And then once we do that, we have to be committed to those things and stay committed and keep up the fight. As far as today's purpose, we want to inform you guys of the 5 pandemics facing Americans, increase empathy towards marginalized society through education, showcase the powerfulness of us being aware as youth of just what's going on, activate others to be part of the solution, and just to have our voices heard today. Now, the pandemics we're going to cover today are self-preservation, there's systemic racism, Our generation is also consumed with design distractions that hold us back. We're subjected to laws, propaganda, and systems designed to hurt us and our culture. And there are limited spaces, as I said, which we can take action in today's society. Okay, about systemic self-preservation. We live in a dominant culture that maintains a self-preservation mindset, disregards groups of ethnicity outside of that culture, uses their power to sustain that. Of course, when I say that, I'm referring to white people, people who are normally in power. Society is structured to ensure the continued success of that group, and that we're held down through education, housing, justice system, etc. It's a capitalistic system that's predatory towards lower income groups by nature. Next, moving on to distractions. Like I said, the oligarchy, which is the ruling class, they aim to keep our generation preoccupied with empty distractions. So we can't be drunk on these. These include meaningless racial feuds, frivolity, fashion, fame and fortune, just having fun, and superficial success. Now I'll bring in Monte to talk about pop culture and its role in distraction.
Hello, guys. Thank you for the introduction, Akil. My name is Monte Anthony, and today we're going to be discussing a few slides dealing with pop culture and the impact it has on young teens and even adults. And to start off, we're going to talk about Lil Nas X, his Satan Shoes, and the new song, one of his new songs that dealt with Christianity. So the music video deals with Lil Nas X, and he is doing a lot of sexual activities with the snake, or as you can say, the devil. And it's as bad as where he goes down a stripper pole to give the devil a lap dance. And it's just the way he portrays Christianity, and he does this because he talks about it. He does this because he's trying to start controversy, and he was trying to prove to Christianity because of the way he was treated when he was younger, because he was trying to come out as gay. But despite that, the sad part about this is that how he sees Christianity, how he sees Christians, and it's not in a positive light at all. So I have a little bit of remorse for him, but what he did overall was really disrespectful. But I think one of the main reasons he was doing this, like I said earlier, was because he was just trying to be controversial. He was trying to get attention. If anybody has any questions or thinks differently about this, please tell me. And another fact is that those shoes, apparently he'll put like a little bit of blood in them, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for giving a little bit more background. It is disheartening that, someone would go to those kind of measures to do exactly what you're talking about here, which is create a distraction around what we should really be focused on as people. So I think it's an excellent example, and I appreciate you describing that, what happened in that video for everybody today.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any inputs you would like to say? No? Okay. You can go to the next slide. So this song came out a long time ago. It's called WAP. I'm assuming a lot of y'all have heard about this, where it deals with Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B, and they sexualize themselves and they perform an inappropriate dance. Now, before I get into it, can I get some of y'all's opinions on how y'all feel about this music video? And also, do you think it can be empowering for young women?
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely not empowering for I think it's the opposite of that. The slide says it's pretty much soft pornography in music videos, and I know they have a lot of girls listening to their music that that are not over 18. So I'm interested to know what you guys think about this and its effect on young girls, right, and also on young boys as well.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. You said it's not empowering. Do you think, because the song, despite the music video and some of the things they say, it does give out a message that to take ownership of your body. So do you think in that way it can be empowering to young women when facing just them trying to know themselves and them being comfortable in their own skin? Or do you still think it's just extreme?
No, I think it's totally extreme for two women to be in the video talking about their their sexual parts and make it a mainstream video in society, and also I think that song was #1 on the charts. So I'm not sure what they're empowering.
I'm gonna say I do see his point as just like wondering if it's empowering, because I do still think though that just the acronym WAP, what it stands for, is pretty extreme to be empowering. I'm not sure if that's the right word. There's more negatives and positives to the song for sure.
Does anybody else, maybe the young ladies in here, have an opinion on the song and the subject?
I'm an older woman. I'll speak for a minute. I think that first of all, it comes down to the question of intent over impact. And that's with any type of controversial topic, right? It's intent over impact. And their intent, while it may have been good, which is, air quotes, questionable, their intent may have been to empower young women to take control of their body and not let anybody objectify them. What their impact was is that they're completely playing into the hands of stereotypes and exploitation. So I think it's definitely crossed the line, in my opinion, into hypersexualizing women, where it could have had a powerful message of helping women of all ages realize that their body is in their control and that they should treat it as the temple that it is. I think that they definitely missed the mark.
Thank you for your input, you guys. We can go on to the next slide. So this is a slideshow. This slide covers rappers who have passed away or have been incarcerated or overdosed in the last 5 years. And most of these rappers on here were a big part of kind of just the culture of music, or made kind of like a huge impact. And I just want to get y'all's input on, what type of change do you think we should make, or what type of change would you like to see, so we don't have to see rappers, going through the struggles of depression like X and Juice, or just getting shot at. So like, what type of change do you guys like to see ideally?
I'll say something because no one else has, but personally, I think that to say a rapper was shot or something, a lot of those rappers on there were shot out of just hate crimes just because they're rappers. I'm gonna say something about the drug part, which I feel that they shouldn't, not they shouldn't do drugs, they're grown, they can do whatever they want, but maybe not drugs like that and like advertising it to their young audience.
Yeah, but I think that
go ahead.
people, oh my bad. No, I was just saying, I think that like I think a lot of the times the rap culture is involved with like guns and like getting shot, like just shooting people. Like they're always talking about in their songs, flexing guns in videos. Like it's part of the culture. So that's just.
Maybe we shouldn't make it as much as we make it of the culture for rapping, because that would lead to less overdoses, right? So maybe we shouldn't make it that big of a part. Like as you said, in songs, they flex guns and stuff like that. That's unnecessary to me, to be honest. But
I think as another kind of distraction. I mean, I wonder how many other genres of music have this type of chart. Like how many country artists get shot, and over the last 5 years, or pop, or or any genre. I haven't seen the numbers, but interesting chart.
Right.
It's definitely something going on, and it has been even since my days of hip hop music. This has been going on for quite some time, and it's definitely something that's not a good thing, in the culture right now. We just had a classmate lose her son 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. He was also a rap artist in the studio with another rap artist in the studio, his cousin of a cousin, and he killed him. So he murdered him. So there's something going on, in this rap game that's not positive, and it's not good. It needs to change.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any inputs you would like to say? We can go on to the next slide. The pandemics. So first we have self-preservation, we have the systematic racism. Our generation is consumed with design distractions. We are subject to laws, propaganda, and systems designed to hurt our culture. The limited spaces in which today's youth can be educated about these problems. What really pops out to you guys, or what influenced y'all the most in your culture? Is it the music, the artists, the art? Because different types of art. I just want to know like what's really influencing your decisions daily. Because I admit there's rappers that I admire, that I look up to because of the work they put in and just what they talk about in their talent. So I just want to know if anybody in here that look up to any artists or something that stands out about their culture.
The ones that appeal to me right now is Lecrae and those folks along that line, because everybody can make a choice, whether to go that route or the other route.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And then Lecrae is another talented rapper, Christian rapper at that. who's really talented. He dropped the album a couple of months ago. But he's just like I said, he's part of the culture, but he's not a big influence because, like I said, he's not getting that radio time. He's, because he's not rapping the stereotypical things that you normally see on the radio. Systematic self-preservation. This deals with the implement laws, policies, and other forces that are designed to suppress others. The media uses superficial narratives and propaganda designed to keep them in power by promoting entertainment and news that shows minorities from a negative perspective. The justice system perpetuates placing a lesser value on other human beings who don't have money to manipulate the courts. Can somebody give me like a form of entertainment that's really propagating this, this really showing this other than music?
I'd say that what I've seen is that in a lot of movies that are showing, I guess, parts of Africa, China, whatever country it is overseas, they don't show the modern society that they have already established. They just show kind of, them being behind or them being third world countries. It's not always how it is. So
yeah, I totally agree. Does anybody else have anything else to say?
I want to say that as a person in corporate America who is actively working every day to create kind of awareness to anti-racism programs, training and practices, it is interesting that there's kind of an oxymoron going on within white America. And that is, there is a significant amount of people, and this is not, there's obviously outliers, but there are a significant amount of people who feel like in their minds, they want to get better and not resort to self-preservation systemically, but they are so caught up in, as youngsters would say, in their feelings, that they can't let change happen. They can't wrap their minds around some of the things that have happened and, in the racism spectrum and the things that are happening. And they resort to a position of safety and self-preservation. Some people are consciously letting it happen systemically, and some people are very unconsciously furthering the systemic self-preservation cause. It's a huge hurdle to overcome, and our generation has moved it forward, but I think it's for the teenagers of Grace for Race and your generation. You're going to have to change it because our generation, we've got it kind of as far as we can, but it's up to, I think it's going to be up to you guys to kind of push it over the hump. It's going to have to be a major empathy movement to actually move the needle toward setting aside self-preservation in the interest of humankind.
Well, thank you for your input. Next up will be Masai.
Okay, this is what we're dealing with, y'all. The pandemics. We talked about self-preservation. We talked about the distractions set up to keep us fighting each other instead of fighting for each other and for humankind. We're subjected to laws and propaganda, like what Monte was talking about. And there's limited spaces where today's youth can be educated about all these problems. I'm gonna hand it over to Jewel to talk about this self-preservation and how it's happening in our school system.
Thank you. I'm gonna pick up with kind of what Monte and Masai are both saying, but I'm gonna talk about our school system. So number one, we see a lack of resources in our school systems, and that can be something as small as underfunding of minority school districts. For example, if you ever go to a predominantly white academy or school, the things wouldn't be the same as it would be at a minority school district. For example, they would have nicer books or maybe even computers or iPads or laptops to do the work on, which the minority school probably wouldn't because underfunding. Next, we're going to talk about redlining, and basically the purpose of that is to keep disadvantaged communities in poverty. And that's basically the same thing of what I was talking about a second ago. It can look like underfunding or just not really having the same high paid teachers to teach them as they teach the other people, or it can be something under the example of textbooks and computers again. Next, we're going to talk about limited awareness of the vastness of these problems, which is a lot of people don't really know that this really happens. It's not just a little joke, and schools are really that different. I don't know if that's that hard to believe, but the things you see at a predominantly white school would not be the same as you would see at a minority school. Number one, we lack being woke, and that means not really knowing about being culturally aware and knowing how certain things are, and not really understanding what that really means to be culturally woke. Number two, empathy. can anyone give an example of a time that they've experienced something that was hard for them and they experienced it throughout being a Black man or woman, like that was the reason the problem or anything happened to you, and you think that a white person would not understand? Can you explain what happened to you and why you think they would understand?
Yeah, I can. I think it happens all the time. Like, as a Black person, you can kind of tell when someone's like targeting you for your color. And for other people that haven't experienced that, it's going to be hard for them to like see that and empathize with you just naturally.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Anyone else want to share a time?
I have an example.
Go ahead.
I picked up my grandkids from school. I was driving the normal speed limit, and the police stopped me. And we know that idea of driving while Black, because he had no reason at all to stop me. And he looked in the car, he saw who I was, he saw who was with me, and he let us go. So as a Black person, that's something that maybe a white person may not fully understand.
Exactly. Thank you so much for the example. And tying into your example, next we're going to talk about number 3, which is the desire to change. So for example, after you're educated and woke and you know about these things and you feel the empathy, it's really deciding that in your heart and around you with others that you really want to do something to make a change or make an impact or difference. And that also goes to number 4, which is actually taking that action and coming up with a plan and deciding to do that, have that drive to actually put your words into real life. And that also goes to number 5, which is commitment, which is, again, really getting in there and doing it, sticking to it and with it until you see a change, how you want to see it positively in your community. And here's how you can really create the change and be the change. First, you have to understand the times. You have to know how to lead others. You have to understand how to bring the change itself, what you can do, how to step up, take action, like we said before. You can also learn how to respond to today's challenges. And to do that, you would have to be spiritually alert and informed, culturally alert and informed. You'd have to understand what's happening in the political system, socially, and intellectually as well. So you can stand strong against the ignorance of other people and help those around you. And now I'm going to switch into more of the God First Approach side because I'm the God First Approach chair for Grace Race, if I didn't say that. And I'm going to talk about what's going on right now spiritually for America. To simplify, basically, America is sinking into an abyss. And some of us have forgotten about God. We feel that he's no longer needed in our society or needed for us personally. And we've honestly became a little self-absorbed, both as a nation and as individuals. And in the end, we will always reap what we sow, and what we give to him, we will always give back. And about that, I also feel that a lot of people have really lost their sense of purpose. And whenever you lose your sense of purpose, it leaves you nothing to do, nothing to wake up for, and it just gives you no meaning or purpose to life at all. And it can honestly just lead you to a spiritual dead end, which that's what a lot of people, young people 16 to 25 feel. They don't really see a meaning or purpose to life at all. And that's a really serious problem that we have going on in America right now, as well as materialism. It's really harmful and contagious, and it just really makes us, like I said before, self-absorbed and not really worried about spiritual things, to be honest. And now we're going to talk about some of those consequences that we face whenever we leave God and his word behind. They're big now and they're really huge in front of us right now, but they're going to be, like I said before, even greater in the future because we always reap what we sow. And one really important thing that happens to us whenever we really forget about God or think we can do it on our own or don't have any greater sense of power within him, it gives us a lack of social support from our community and everyone around us. And without that commitment to a certain belief system or to our certain savior, God, it makes us really confused and anxious. And studies have shown that over time, it leads to higher depression rates and higher confused people and even more suicide rates going up. Because whenever we put our time and we surrender to God with an understanding of there's a purpose for us and we have a life and we have a future through him and only him, it really just lifts a huge weight off of all of us and it lets us have that support system and it just gives us meaning to live. And now I'm going to talk about some ways we can fix this. But first, how do y'all think that as a community and as Christians or as people, we can really fix sinking into a spiritual abyss?
Jewel, I think that as Christians, or what I've seen just especially from not necessarily my generation, but just all generations and just talking to other Christians at my church and everything, I think that sometimes we can represent Jesus and like his love in a really bad way because we can be very judgmental and not open to the other struggles and what other people are feeling. And then I think that causes non-believers to just ignore what we're trying to say and they're not trying to be Christians because of how we're representing God. So I think that we can start off by being more loving and open to what other people are experiencing.
Thank you. Yes, for sure, Arlie. That's actually the next point. It's you literally hit it on the nail, basically. But it's really helping those in need and showing them what it really is to be a Christian. Another way we can fix this is setting aside time to spend with God every day. I don't know how many of you do that, but I'm in a Connect group and we meet it every Wednesday during Connect group season or Thursday. And we just talked about God. It was a group of girls and we really just dug in his word with my mom. She was our leader and we just talked about him. And I think that's really important for everyone to do because we can grow every day in our faith with God. And it's really important to have a bond with him because he's our everything. Another way, like I said before, kind of ties into it. We can include God more in our everyday lives, which can be something as simple as praying every morning when you wake up or doing a small devotion, getting a little book and doing it morning or night, or also just praying more openly to him and maybe sharing your faith with other believers as well, or even reading your Bible daily and just writing in little notes about how you feel about it. Another way we can do it is pushing for faith in our youth, which can be a Bible study or a Bible group with younger people, or like I said before, just maybe talking with your kids or your friend group or anyone who's really youth and really just share how you feel and your beliefs with them as well. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about how sometimes people leave churches and it could be potentially because of the churches themselves. So whenever some people go to church, these are some popular Google searches that have come up whenever people say why they leave church. It can be lack of outreach, which that would mean that they feel like they're not really heard for, or they came to church late, like not late, but they came into the church community later than they could have. They don't have that many friends in the church. They're not really that well known around there. They don't know that many people. They don't really know who they can talk to or where they can go to get more connected. And ways that can be solved is a Connect group, or whenever you see someone new at your church, reach out to them and be like, hi, how are you? Introduce yourself, things like that to really get them connected and rooted in the church community. Another example of this, I know my church does it, but some churches around the world don't really recognize that people are dealing with a lot mentally. So sometimes they don't really have many options for them as a newcomer inside of a church, but it's really important to provide the spiritual guidance and reach out to those people in your church and your members of your church as well on a regular basis to make sure that they're all right and they're good so they can feel like they're heard from as well. And I'm going to pass it on and they're going to talk about America's pandemics.
Thank you, Jewel, for the introduction. I'm going to talk about the different pandemics that we see in America today. So first off, we have COVID-19. So there's been more than 600,000 deaths in America, and there's an uprise of COVID cases because the number of deaths and cases are going up every day. So how COVID has impacted Americans during quarantine is basically first unemployment because production of products have slowed down and businesses and restaurants and small stores are closed down. And also there's a greater effect of lower income communities because they don't have the right health insurance or health care or proper treatment to get over the COVID virus. And some prevention measures that need to be held in place are obviously to get vaccinated and also educate yourself about the different types and also to continue wearing your mask. I know in the state of Texas, which I'm pretty sure all of us live in Texas, the mask mandate was lifted, but you also want to be cautious about about the places you're going to because wearing a mask will not only help you, but also help the health of others. Next, we're going to talk about systemic racism. So basically, systemic racism is certain systems in place that promote racial division. So an example would be the police systems in America against African Americans. In the George Floyd case, he was an innocent Black man who got shot because he was accused of forging a check. Effects of systemic racism are exclusion and displacement of minorities, and the diagram to the left is basically just the different types and how they affect each other. So it starts off with individual, meaning beliefs that are created from your own opinions, and then it goes on to interpersonal, meaning groups that form their opinions based off of each other. And then it goes to institutional, which means policies and practices that discriminate against one another. And lastly, structural, which means racial discrimination and any type of discrimination that happens in one society. So next is what can we do? First off, we can find ways to educate ourselves, have conversations about racism with other people who maybe have experienced it, do more research and find ways to serve people who have been affected, and also look at current events. So how can you make a change is to volunteer and donate. And I've listed some places that you can give back. So first off, I know we have some place some people here in the meeting that are in the Houston area, and the Houston Food Bank is a great source to give back. And then we have Grace Arrays, which is us, in Mission Arlington. And how we can make a change as a nation is to sacrifice more time and contribute more time. And people need to admit that what they're seeing is wrong and make a change. So these are some other examples of systemic racism. So the first one is Harvard. The Harvard students were protesting with Cornel West at Harvard, but then they changed their initial decision, which put him out of the protest, but Dr. West did not accept the tenure. And then lastly, Donald Trump was banning diversity trainings because he thought that it was anti-American propaganda. Now I'm going to hand it off to Monte to talk more about it.
Thank you, Ryan. Cultural bullying. Cultural bullying is the treatment of an individual, a bad treatment based off, you're just not aware of their beliefs. And, you lack knowledge of what their culture is, so you just treat them badly. And the effects of this can create anxiety, fear, self-hatred, can create a lot of insecurities. Superficial culture and cancel culture. Superficial culture is a culture that is constantly changing every day of our lives. For example, this has to do with trends on social media, miscommunications on social media like Twitter, Snapchat, experiences, and we're a very information hungry society, so things are going to constantly be changing and updating. Then we have cancel culture. Cancel culture is when a public figure or of yours does something that you might not like, and the social media tries to cancel him or tries to boycott him for that. Superficial culture. Now, I need an honest answer on whether does branding matter and would you laugh or make fun? I need an honest answer.
In high school, I would laugh all day, probably for like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, we yeah, for real. Actually, today I also laugh, but maybe not as long, and maybe like 4 or 5 minutes. But
that's kind of long.
Is that an upside down polo?
That's an upside down polo shirt. Yeah.
It's that Ralph Lauren.
But I would say this. I'd add this that say if one of your superstars would wear that brand and wear that shirt, a lot of people would go out and get it, and it would turn it into a fad.
Mm-hmm. That's true too.
Yeah, the trolls would still be on them online though, maybe. But I feel like some people would. Now I feel like people would get bullied if they bought it and wore it too.
Yeah. So now, like, if like an actor or some type of superstar were to buy something like this and try to, make it popular or something like that, they would get scored on. Personally, if I saw somebody at school wearing this, I would definitely laugh and score, but not in front of them. I wouldn't score in front. But the main question again, does it really matter, what brand, if it's, the popular brand or not? Like, does it really matter at the end of the day?
I think, yes, it matters. Because why would you come wearing a fake popular brand? Just come with the off-brand brand. Don't, because then it looks like you're trying to, like, you can't, I don't know. I'm not trying to say.
Well, that is the case though. Like they like the brand, they don't have the money for it, so they wanna get something that looks similar to it.
Don't buy it. Just get a different off-brand thing that you can afford.
But if they really like it though, because not everybody has the money to just be buying Jordans.
Then don't buy them.
Honestly, to me, I wouldn't even notice because I don't really know shoes that much. But I know that the picture looks pretty real to me. And honestly, you can get like fake shoes off of like website that look exactly the same. So
I do see Joel's point though, because I had a friend like 2 years ago who came to school with fake AirPods. Like they looked like AirPods, but they were just fake and off-brand. They like lit up and like blinked and stuff. So I think if you want to listen to music without wires, just get like different style of earphones and try to copy another brand that's off-brand, because like Joel was saying, then you're trying to be someone that you're not. It just looks like so.
Hold on, Akil. So what do you mean by when you say you're trying to be somebody that you're not? So to me, it sounds like this branding stuff really matters to you.
Okay, no, it doesn't matter to me that much. I'm just saying that the reason he got scored on so heavily was because his earphones resembled AirPods and they were fake.
Right.
So I think he could have avoided that if he would have just used a different style of earphones. If that makes sense.
Exactly. It's that easy. Exactly. I agree with you, Akil.
I feel like AirPods are different though, because I wouldn't say like he's trying to be somebody he's not, because if he just wants to listen to his music, then let him listen to his music.
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to be someone they're not. I just think a way to avoid yourself getting scored on by everyone you know and everyone around you.
They're not trying to be someone they're not. It's just that people think they are.
Don't get a close replica, get a total different thing that you can afford.
I actually think it's cool now that I think about it, because if someone has enough confidence to like pull up with a name brand that's not actually the name brand, like it's actually interesting.
Man, these are some very interesting answers. Thank you for y'all's input. There you go. Now, a lot of y'all remember when Kanye and Lil Wayne came out to us as Trump supporters. And I want to think, based off, these guys are very historical rap figures. They are known, they've been praised by other rap legends that we know, like Kendrick, Cole, Nas. So do y'all think, like, for them coming out as Trump supporters, that they should be canceled for that or not?
I don't think they should be canceled, because I don't really know much about Lil Wayne, but I know Kanye, he was trying to like vote for president. So for me, I thought he was just doing that just so he can like build his fame so that he could get more people to vote for him when he ran. So that's my view on it. I don't think he should be canceled for it.
What do you think about, like, not them specifically, but just should like African American people be canceled for supporting Donald Trump? Like, is that a problem?
I think people see it in two different lights, because say that was Harry Styles and he was a super prominent, like, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm a Trump, he wears the hat, goes to rallies and stuff. Everyone would cancel him because he's white, but we're not, like, people wouldn't really cancel Lil Wayne or Kanye West, but I guess it's because they're black. But I mean, I could see why that would kind of make sense, because whenever white people are Trump supporters, you get the impression that they're racist sometimes, because that's what they usually are, like really like country racist people. But when a black person does it, are they going to be racist? Because like everyone's backing to canceling someone off of Trump is that they're racist or they're homophobic. But if you're black, are you going to be racist or homophobic like that?
So the thing with Kanye and Lil Wayne, when I was doing my research, one point Lil Wayne did not know what Black Lives Matter was, and he said he loved cops because I think a cop saved him one time when he was like 6. And then y'all know Kanye's case, he's a little off sometimes, and he has said some very controversial things. So I don't know what he was getting at, but he did end up saying that he's not your stereotypical Trump supporter. Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting when these guys did, though, come out as Trump supporters. But what I'm hearing is y'all wouldn't cancel them.
Let me just say real quickly that with Kanye West, I just want everyone to, I don't know if you know the relationship that he had with his mother. And he's a prime example of, he was a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. And he had an extremely close relationship with his mom. Before people speak on Kanye, which is nothing wrong with speaking on him, because everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Right.
But I want everyone to think about, if you're familiar, the relationship that he had with his mom and the way he lost his mom tragically. But I think that he suffers from PTSD. And sometimes when people don't protect their mental health, they lash out in ways that sometimes the average person that's never been through any traumatic events, sometimes you act out in ways that society doesn't understand. And not to excuse any of his behavior, because even with all of that, he still knows right from wrong. But he's definitely entitled to his own opinion. And so should we cancel him as a culture, as a group of people? No, we should not. We should, pray for him and hopefully, ask God for leniency, grace, and mercy to get him back on track. If you know anything about words, all of the pain that he suffers, he lives it out loud. And so I just want us to think, just my nieces and nephews and the young folks on here, just think about someone in your life that may act strange and may act different. You must understand that mental health issues are real and people act out in different ways. PTSD happens to common folk, which means people that you interact with every day.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you so much, dear. That was great. Next up, in the next slide will be Masai.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the lead in. I'm Masai Collins, and first I want to start off with this Bible verse at the bottom of the screen, bottom of the presentation. Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So here's a graph of the massive wealth gap in America between the bottom 90% and the top 10% and the top 1%. And this huge wealth gap has only been steadily increasing for a long time when it should be decreasing. So how does a gap like this happen? Simple, lack of financial literacy. So what exactly is financial literacy? It's the ability to understand and use various financial skills like finance management, debt, taxes, investment, things like that. Why is this important? It gives teams the tools that they need to become successful and teach them what to do with their success, what to do with their money that they might have gained from their success. And it can reduce the high amount of money owed in student loans. In this graph, you can see in 2019, the massive wealth gap between white households in America and then everyone else. And you might wonder how this happened. Is it just because white people are just smarter than us? No, it's not. The main reason for this is the lack of financial literacy in impoverished communities. Financial literacy is not taught or encouraged in our schools. And a lot of us are trapped in a consumer economy where we want to buy the nicest thing because everyone else has them. And those with the higher financial literacy tend to not do this. They save their money for retirement and they don't make purchases that they know they can't afford. We can make more decisions in spending and receiving loans, leading to wasted money and a lower credit score. So what do we have to do? We have to break out of our consumer mentality. We can't always get the nicest things because we can't always afford them. We need to research and spread awareness on this issue of financial literacy. And we need to find a way to implement this financial education in our school systems. We should also hold a personal responsibility to learn more about money so we can use instead of get used by it. This is just how bad the wealth gap really is, just to put into like some examples for y'all. 2/3 of minority households do not possess the savings to sustain themselves for 3 months without income. Why is this so important? Because we just had that big corona outbreak, and I mean, like it was like a year or more where people just were getting laid off jobs and couldn't find work. And if 2/3 of minority households don't even have enough money to live for 3 months, in 2019, African Americans spent $1.2 trillion in purchases, and we have an average household income of $45,000. This is that consumer mentality that I was talking about. We can't buy stuff that we can't afford. White family wealth is 7 times greater than Black family wealth and 5 times greater than Hispanic family wealth. Next, I'll be handing it over to Riley Anthony to talk about inequality in our education system.
Thank you, Masai. Hi, guys. My name is Riley. So the inequality in the education system is basically a disparity in educational funding between societies, and I'm going to be talking about why that is happening. So we're going to be talking about redlining first. Redlining is the practice of denying credit to neighborhoods on a discriminatory basis, and the opposite of redlining is greenlining, which is the practice of targeting these same communities or protecting classes for predatory lending. So the effects of redlining was outlawed in 1968 by the Fair Housing Act, but it still affects almost every aspect of the economic Black communities to this day. Residents who live in redlined areas pay higher interest rates and are denied mortgages more often than white residents with the same credit and income. People in redlined areas pay higher auto insurance rates as well. Homes in Black neighborhoods are valued on average $48,000 less than homes in white neighborhoods with similar crime rates. Because of poverty and the lack of education and the crime rates, they're all interrelated. So it makes sense that Black children who are more likely to live in underfunded neighborhoods and school districts are also more vulnerable to the criminal justice system. So the cause of this would be segregation. It's thought to be of something in the past because now it is legal for people of all races to go to the same school. But because of historical things that are in the past and how Black people were held back, a lot of schools today are segregated. After slavery, segregation began to filter African Americans into rundown communities. So a lot of Black people are in underfunded communities where they go to underfunded schools and don't get the same opportunities as white people. So the cost, schools are funded by property taxes. Funding to low income Title I schools has decreased, and low income communities are usually made up of minorities. So minorities go to schools that are insignificantly funded. So basically people of color are in underfunded neighborhoods, and then they end up going to schools that don't have enough money to give them all the resources they need in order to succeed. This is an issue because kids who don't have the highest amount of education that they can get, they end up not getting the same career opportunities and have jobs where they can support themselves, and this passes on to further generations. So the effect would be the lack of resources. As I was saying, the children don't have the same school supplies that they need. Teachers are less motivated because they are paid less. So if a teacher is being paid less and they're not receiving the same supplies they need in order to help educate these kids, they're emotionally going to be unable to connect with their children. There are more students per classroom, which means extra help that certain students may need, they will not get because there are too many kids for a teacher to just pay attention to a small group of them. Nearly 7 out of 10 Black students attend majority minority schools, and this goes along with the segregation as well. So now I'm going to be talking about the education pandemic and why African American children are behind in reading comprehension. So all of these things depend on family income, race and ethnicity, and the school type. Family income and the type of school matters because if a public school is efficiently teaching the students how to read, there are other options such as paying for tutors or private schools. For African American families, these options are less likely to happen for them because it's a lot of money and they can't afford it. Race matters because white children are significantly more likely to attend private schools where more kids are successful with reading. That means when white kids struggle, their reading problems tend to stand out and they receive immediate attention. If a child has a reading disability, a white child is more likely to have access to special educational services to help them succeed. So this has a lot to do with the opportunity gap, which is the unequal or inequitable distribution of resources and opportunities, or the achievement gap, which is the unequal and inequitable distribution of educational results and benefits. Okay, we're going to be talking about what is happening in Black neighborhoods. Black neighborhoods are often vital centers of Black culture, community, and political power, yet they have not received investments that are customary in white neighborhoods, and that's including well-resourced schools and investments in public services. Instead, they have been subject to underfunded schools, underpaid and overworked teachers, and the lack of extra academic assistance. So this is affecting the test scores, and this is the information that the test scores are revealing. Based on scores from hundreds of million tests over the past decade by students in thousands of school districts, researchers found a very strong link between racial school segregation and academic achievement gaps. Every school district with even moderately high segregation had a large achievement gap. The effect that this is happening on the teachers, again, teachers in poor communities are left unable to emotionally connect with their students, making it more difficult for children to obtain the information they are being taught. If a teacher, again, is not being paid the right amount of money, or if they're not receiving the resources, it's really difficult for them to teach a student. And the only way to close this gap is to racially integrate schools. And that doesn't mean only legally, that means making sure that schools are very diverse just within the teachers and the students so that all the kids have an equal opportunity. Okay, so there are ways we can solve this problem. We can donate to communities in need. We can actively work with children who are falling behind, and we can educate others on these issues. You can donate to communities in need. You can donate to Grace for ACE because we work on helping kids with reading comprehension. You can actively work with children who are falling behind by volunteering to read and work with these kids in person so you can really get to know them and kind of what they're going through. And you can educate others on these issues. You guys are already starting by educating yourselves by being on this call and having these important discussions. And that way you can talk to your peers about these issues and we can help solve these important problems. What Grace for Race has done, we have donated books to shelters in need across the DFW area, and we are working on starting a literature program for children falling behind in reading comprehension. You can help by donating books to Grace for Race, or you can volunteer to help us read to kids who need help with reading comprehension. The next speaker we're going to have is Zaya Collins.
Hi, I'm Zaya. So today I'm going to talk about food deserts. What is a food desert? A food desert is defined as an area where distance to supermarket is more than a quarter mile away. These areas, neighborhoods have, like the residents inside these neighborhoods don't have access to affordable, healthy food options. If they have access to healthy food, they can't buy it regularly because they can't afford it and support their families and themselves. If it's affordable, that's probably not healthy for them. People in these food deserts have a median household income about 185% below the federal poverty level. These households, about 40% of them don't have an available vehicle, which is what makes it a food desert. Because a supermarket is about, more than a quarter mile away, they usually can't walk because you can't really walk with groceries. A lot of times the buses, they can't really take them. They don't work out for their schedules because they're working really long hours and they don't have a car. So they can't get to supermarkets where they can buy better food. So food deserts are mainly in low-income communities, predominantly Black and Brown. These are locations without a single supermarket. So they have corner grocery stores, but they are counted as supermarkets. So no supermarket will ever be added to these areas. So food deserts, of course, indicate, injustice. However, they also have many public health and safety concerns for people living inside food deserts. The consequences can be diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and people in these food deserts don't have access to food that can fit their dietary restrictions or their allergies. For instance, if they have, say, a lactose intolerance or a dairy allergy, they either won't be able to find anything to, replace milk or anything, or if they do, it's not really a good option, it's not good for them, et cetera, et cetera. What makes these food deserts? Why would people be okay with this? Well, food deserts are caused by urban planning. Urban planners develop and design urban cities. So in these food deserts, they purposely plan for them not to have a supermarket so they can then create food swamps. So if you don't have a grocery store that you can really get good food from, all you have is a corner store, you're still going to need other options to eat. So these food deserts are loaded with fast food restaurants and just tons of places that you can get junk food. These, in turn, it, funds the fast food restaurants and these people get their food, but it's not really good for them. These planners also don't really make space for grocery stores. If a grocery store wanted to put a location in these food deserts, they wouldn't be able to. There's nowhere to put it. Instead, they create zones for corner stores instead of grocery stores. So even if there is room for a supermarket in these food deserts or urban areas, a lot of grocery stores don't like putting locations there. A lot of them can't cater to types of food that are bought in the community. For instance, they have to have certain prices to keep their company afloat or keep the location supplied with money. However, if people in the area can't really afford the expensive food, they'd have to close down because it's not making enough money. Also, insurance costs a lot more since it's, in an area that's perceived to have higher crime rates, and a lot of people in these areas don't have as great of education as us here, and so it takes a lot more to train them. Grocery stores that do put locations in urban areas really just add on because they don't have high quality food either. If they get cheaper food, they can sell it for cheaper, and that makes up for the lack of money that the people in these food deserts can buy for this food. There's a lot of reasons why, food deserts are caused by urban planning, but, why people allowing this? Why is urban planning a thing? Well, it's mostly because the country is run by people who have money. They don't really care about people who don't have money, and so they allow food deserts, food swamps, and everything else to happen because it keeps the rest of the economy afloat. A lot of this is due to capitalism, which I'll hand over to Masai to talk about.
Thank you, Zaya. So I'll be talking about predatory capitalism, which capitalism is an economic or political system in which a country's trade industry is controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. So I think capitalism is a factor of financial literacy, and the way it benefits is that capitalism has no reason to teach poor people financial literacy. So the history of capitalism in America probably starts with the slave trade, which was an accumulation of a lot of wealth through the cotton industry and exploitation of slaves. So the government was trying to keep slavery because it was benefiting them, it was giving them more money, building up America to what it is today. And then I'll be giving it back to our founder, Kill Collins, to talk about how we can wake up to these issues and work to solve them.
How to do this is what we're going to do is align ourselves with those in our lives who understand what we understand. Secondly, we want to educate ourselves to not be led astray by what's set up. We got to learn the history of what's gone on before our time and what's going on now. Shift our focus away from sports entertainment. Those are the things that are set up to keep us preoccupied with those distractions. And then we also need to donate just to organizations and people who are kind of trying to help the cause that we're trying to help. Okay, that is it for our presentation today, guys. As far as how to sponsor Race for Race in next events, we are lacking in volunteers. We have a good team, but we do need volunteers as we start to put on more events and have more requirements. So what we're going to do is start reaching out and continue to reach out, and just if you have anyone that you know is interested in just trying to get service hours or helping out and what they see is going on, then we can definitely get in contact with them. We need to spread awareness, and so a lot of our events are going to be going on this summer, and we need to advertise those with flyers or marketing, and that also requires help. Lastly, we need finances as far as putting on events, because a lot of events nowadays just cost money to put on, cost money to get supplies and resources to have them. So money is also helpful too. Lastly, you can follow us on social media to keep in touch with what we're doing, to see our upcoming events or past events, and just also see our posts on certain topics or days that are coming up. And lastly, thank you for spending your Wednesday evening to come listen to what we have to say today. If you have any questions, you can talk about them now or reach out to us.